So for the lab portion, there's a few things that we're going to run through here. We're going to take a look at the interface. We're going to run through a static scan, including some open source scanning. We're going to take a look at the results. The IDE, I'm not sure that we're going to get to the IDE integrations today. I think that we'll have time for the Jenkins component, but then we can also take a look at code sweep as well. And so for the lab, everyone who signed up should have received an email to give you access to the working environment. And I'll actually turn over to Cody, who's been helping out with chat. Cody's just going to walk through getting access to that environment and make sure that everyone has access there. And then we can move on with some of these lab components.
All right, can everybody hear me okay?
Yep, sounds good, Cody.
All right, so can I share my screen? I think I can, right?
I think so. I might need to make you presenter. Hang on here. Okay, you're a presenter. You should be able to share out now.
All right, can you see my RDP session?
Looks like yes.
All right, so in that email that you received, you should get some instructions here. One of those is to your assigned VM, and in that VM, open up an RDP session to that VM and enter the password that was provided there. And when you get access to that VM, you should get in a pretty clean looking Windows environment here that has all of our tools installed. Part of those instructions that were sent were how to register for a trial. So if you have not done that, you might still have time to do it, which is with this Get Started button. Enter your details into the Get Started screen, and you should receive an email for the invitation to the platform. If you've already done that, you should be able to just log straight in with your credentials. You'll have to verify your email if you haven't done that first. But when you log in, you should have access to your own clean trial instance of AppScan on cloud, and land on a landing page like this one. If you're having trouble, you can shoot us, me or Peter, a question in the chat, and we'll be able to respond to you. If not, if you have access, if you've made it this far, then you should be able to follow along with Carl's lab and complete all the actions there. All right. So Carl, is there anything else?
I think that's everything. We'll see how people do in the chat, and I'll actually let's take a short break just for everyone to kind of work through signing up if they need to, if they hadn't already taken care of that. So we'll just do like a quick 2 to 3 minutes, and let everyone kind of work
see if people have questions.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. So like 2 or 3 minute break.
Yep. Let's do that.
Yep, and Peter is mentioning in the handout section of the GoToWebinar, the VM assignment worksheet is there. It's in this Excel spreadsheet. You should be able to look in there and see your name, your IP address of your VM that you should already be into, and then in the email there'll be a password and the instructions for signing up for HCL software, the AppScan on Cloud trial. The sign up process is pretty simple. I have it up on my screen right now. If you go to the Get Started button, if you go to cloud.appscan.com, you should be able to click Get Started, enter your email address and organization name, and you should be able to start a free trial even without a license key. If you haven't gotten an email to the that you've been invited to an ASOC organization, just let me or Peter know.
Okay, so I think that'll about do it for our short break there. Hopefully everyone is able to gain access to their instance as well as the AppScan on Cloud instance. And let me get my environment shared out again, and we can take a look at the interface here.
All right, Carl, I'm going to head back on mute.
Okay, thanks, Cody. Okay, so you should be able to see my environment, and Cody, let me know if you can't. But
yeah, I can see it.
okay, great. So yeah, I've signed into our AppScan on Cloud instance here, and you can see in the background we've got the desktop environment. This should match the environments that you guys have access to as well. And let's start with just getting familiar with the interface for AppScan on Cloud. So when you first sign in, what you'll see is the list of applications. And for you guys, I don't think you'll have the full list here because you're going to be restricted to a specific asset group. And so let's see. So you can actually change the columns that are visible. I think that we can show the asset groups here. So yep, these innovation workshop, these are going to be the only applications you guys can see. So it should be, it looks like 4 applications, and we'll be creating our own application as well for this test. But yeah, so that's what your initial view looks like. If you wanted to create an application, then you can actually go ahead and create one. Yeah, if you click on create a new application, then you can give it a name, and you can call this one whatever you want to. Let's call this a SAST demo. Business impact, it's probably not going to be too important for this lab, so you can just leave that at the default of medium. Business unit, well, we talked about that before, where you can assign a business unit if you want to, but that's also not something that we'll need for this lab, so you can leave that one blank.
Hey, Carl.
Asset group, yes, Cody?
Um, so can the participants all see each other's applications, or are they in separate asset groups?
So everyone's going to be in the innovation workshop asset group, and so
I just thought it might be a good idea to maybe add your first name or initials or something to your application name so you can know which one's yours if it's
yeah,
scanned.
that's a good idea. So when you add these applications, you're going to see everyone else's applications in here as well. So just make sure that you give it a name that's unique to yourself. So yeah, I'll do CEB SAST demo so that I can identify this one as mine. That's a good catch, Cody. Yeah, so add your initials or some other identifier so that you know it's yours. And then, yeah, asset group, you're probably not going to be able to select this one, so it's just going to go to your default. But if you can select it, maybe that's the only one that'll show up for you guys. But yeah, from there you can hit create, and it'll directly open up the application in question. If we go back to the applications view, now you can see we've got a bunch of new applications that have been created for everyone. So yeah, we'll go into the application itself. And from here, this is where you would do the actual work on an application. And so here you can create your first scan. If we had some scans that were already performed, then you would see that here as well. Like you could go in and see, all the existing issues, all the existing scans that have happened. This is kind of a dashboard for the application in question. Before we get into setting up a scan for this one, let's just take a look a little bit more through the rest of the interface. So if you click on like this blank spot over here on the left, it'll open up this navigation, and we can just walk through each of these in order. So you have your applications view that we already saw. If you click on scans and sessions, so these are going to be existing scans that have already happened across all the different applications. These I'm not sure which of these you can see if they're not in your asset group, but anything that is in your asset group, then you'll be able to see those existing and previous scans for DAST. You can see them for SAST scans, and then you can see for IAST sessions as well. So this is primarily used just for kind of keeping tabs of the activity going on across your account. Then if we click on dashboard, here you can see this is kind of a view of all of your applications as a whole. So it's like a high level executive view. And we talked about business units being one of the ways you can divide up your reporting. This is the main place where that's used. So you could look at, maybe we just want to look at the banking business unit, which only has one application in it, or like engineering has two applications. You can also look at just a single asset group. So like if we look at our asset group, let's see what comes up here. Yeah, so like the last 7 days, that's interesting. It might not be recognizing the ones that we just added actually, because they haven't been scanned yet. But yeah, you can see like the total number of issues over time, testing status over time, common issue types. And once we actually get some scans in, then we're going to see these numbers change for our asset group. And if we open up the tools submenu, we have a page for plugins, and these are all of the different plugins and integrations that we have available. So we've got a number of IDEs that you can tie in with, and there's actually a public page for this as well. Let me add that public page in the URL bar here, just so you can see. Yeah, so this is the publicly accessible version. It's just cloud.appscan.com/plugins. And you don't have to be signed in order to view this page. And the reason I'm providing this version is just in case anyone wants to try out the VS Code code sweep plugin. So this is something that you don't need to have any kind of sign up in order to go and get. You would just go to the VS Code page from plugins. And here you can see you're in the Visual Studio Marketplace, and you can actually grab Code Sweep and install it directly. But yeah, all the other components, a lot of these are used with your AppScan account. We've got some CI/CD integrations like GitHub, for example, Jenkins, Azure DevOps. You can tie in with a few different defect tracking systems. And then some of the tools that are specific to AppScan on cloud. So AppScan Go is one that we're going to be using today. It's already installed in your environment, but if you don't have it yet, then you would be able to download it from here as well. So yeah, that's the plugins page. Go ahead and close these guys. And then presences. So this is used for dynamic scanning. So if you were going to scan something protected behind your firewall, then you can install an AppScan presence in order to do that. And it just prevents you from having to open up ports or whitelist IP addresses and for us to be able to access and scan. Out of scope for what we're working on today, but if you were doing that type of a dynamic scan, that's what you would do with the AppScan presence. Then the API. So the API credentials, they're used for a few different things. So one would be the accessing the REST API directly. So I'll open up the REST API. You can see we've got the link over on the right here. And this is just a Swagger documentation for it. And basically anything that you can do in the interface, you can do through the REST API. It's the way that all of our different integrations communicate with AppScan on cloud. And so yeah, you can access from here, and you would use these API key credentials in order to use that REST API. To generate these credentials, you would just click on generate, and it's going to give you a key ID and a key secret, and you would just want to hold on to those because once you generate it, it's not going to show the secret again. So that's something you would want to save somewhere. We don't need this yet. We might come back to this later if we need to grab these credentials. Then under organization, so we have policies, and this is where you can assign those policies that I mentioned to an application. So for example, the OWASP top 10, you could assign this to an application. And maybe we could actually go ahead and just associate this with our, our application, just so you can see what it looks like to turn on and off a policy once we do a scan. So yeah, if you're following along, go ahead and click on that OWASP top 10 policy. And then you can click associate with applications in the bottom right. And then you should see all of the different applications that we just created in here. Choose the one, your own application, and you can go ahead and associate that. And yep, I can see a couple of you guys have already associated that. And yep, so those are the policies. And then for domains, over here on the left. So if we were doing dynamic scanning and we were doing a public application, then we could prove ownership of the domain here. That's also out of scope for what we're doing today, so we don't have to worry about that. Then in settings, so yeah, settings, looks like our settings page has had an update since the last time I've been in here. So settings, this is just kind of a closer look at what makes up your account. So you can see, some of the different business units, some numbers on number of applications that you have, and just some general information. So like your organization ID, this is something you can use along with the REST API sometimes. It's just some high level organizational settings here. Similarly, the subscriptions page, is additional subscription level information. So, like how many scans do you have left? How long does your subscription last? Things like that. And then finally, under access management, we can take a look at users, which I think you guys probably don't have access to this. And I'll actually skip past the users page because I'm not sure. I think some of your email addresses might have been showing there. But yeah, users, basically the way that users work is you just invite email addresses. So you can do like a comment separated list of email addresses, and then those invites would go out to people like the ones that you received in order to sign up for this. And then under roles, so these are those default roles that I had mentioned. And you can see on the right-hand side the different privileges. And if I click on administrator, you can see that everything is checked. So administrator can do all of these. And then you can see by the check marks who's allowed to do what. And then you can also do like a custom role. So like a QA tester, we can edit this one, and you can see, you can just select and deselect the type of actions that you want this user to be able to take. And then finally, the asset groups. So I don't think anyone can see this from your view, but you can see that we've got the innovation workshop. This is one of the asset groups. This is the one you guys are all assigned to. And you can set up different asset groups and assign users here. So yeah, that's getting familiar with the interface. I think that about covers it. Probably the only other links worth mentioning would be for like you have access to the documentation up here in the top bar, so you could open that in another tab if you wanted. If you had a support issue, you've got a quick link to that. So if you're using this in your organizations and you needed to do a support ticket, that's where you would access. And then this is just a second link to the plugins and APIs page that we had already opened here on the left. I think, yeah, it's this same page with all the different plugins. So yeah, from here, what we're going to do is configure a static scan, and this is done with AppScan Go. Because there is like a quick upgrade or update process, I think all of your machines are going to need to update AppScan Go. It doesn't take too long, but let's go ahead and just kick that off so that it starts, and then I'll talk through a few points while that's happening. But locate on your desktop, find the AppScan Go icon, and go ahead and open that up. Mine, I think, has already been updated when I ran through this yesterday. But for you, you're going to open it, and it's going to say checking for updates, and it's going to take about a minute or two to locate and download those. So while that's happening, yeah, I'll go ahead and make sure you get updated. I think I'm going to make sure I know where the source code that we're scanning is here. Okay, so I think I know the one that probably be easiest to do in the lab is probably the this WAR version. So um, let's see. I think that should be enough time that you guys are all updated. So let me kind of walk through the process for like what a first-time user might experience trying to do a static scan. So we'll go back to AppScan on cloud and go into your application for this that we're going to be scanning. And then from here, you can see create scan should be the front and center main option. So thinking of a first-time user, the most obvious place is they'll just go to the application and click on create scan. And from here, we would choose SAST and SCA, and this is what you would be faced with. So you're going to see that it's asking for an IRX file and then how to generate this IRX file. So the reason that you see this is we have like an older method of creating this IRX file, and it was basically a command line utility. It's something that you still have access to because certain troubleshooting scenarios, it still comes in handy for. So, you can still get this old command line tool in the interface. And this one, basically, you would just run it using the command line. It would generate the IRX file, and then you would upload that manually here. So that's our old process. Our new way of doing it uses that AppScan Go tool that we all just updated. And it's it's a GUI tool. It's a little bit more modern and easier to use. And you have the ability to download that from here as well. So you guys already have it. You don't need to download it. But a first-time user, this is what they would see. They would, go ahead and grab AppScan Go and download it. And once you have that tool, you actually don't need to use this interface anymore. Like you can do it all from that AppScan Go tool. And that's what we're going to be doing today. So we don't even need to keep that box open or the browser for now. So you can minimize that. And we'll go back to AppScan Go. And so, yeah, this is a small tool. And the way that this works is you're just going to point it at your source code, and it's going to take care of generating that IRX artifact that we talked about earlier out of your source code, and then it's going to send that up to the cloud for scanning. So here, the first thing that we'll do if you've got AppScan Go updated and opened is you're going to point to the files that you want to scan. So we'll go ahead and hit browse. And then let's see, what's the best way to find? So we're going into this sample applications folder. And we want to do this Altero WAR file. So, I guess if you, it's okay. So it's just C/sample applications. So in the dialog, we can just, C/sample applications. And then let's do the Altero J 3.2 WAR file. And in here, if you see in the actual folder, then you can see we do have a WAR file that's in here that we're going to scan. In the AppScan Go dialog, it doesn't show files; it just shows folders because you're basically just pointing at the root folder of whatever you're scanning. So it's okay that it doesn't show anything in here. As long as you have this folder, then you're in the right place and you can select it. And now under what type of issues do you want to find? So this is either going to be all security issues or only open source and third-party libraries. What this means is, are we doing a full static scan, or are we doing just that open source software composition type scan? So you can do just an SCA scan. It's very fast. That's the reason why you might want to only select that one. But let's go ahead and do both at the same time. So we're just going to leave all security issues selected, and it'll actually do both a static and open source scan at the same time. And then under what type of files do you want to scan? This is worded kind of funny. It's basically asking if you're doing a full data flow analysis scan where supported, like for supported languages, which are listed down at the bottom here, or if it's just a source code scan, which is a little bit more pattern based. It could be faster. You might use this in some troubleshooting scenarios too. But typically you would want to just leave this at the default and it'll do the deepest type of scan possible for whatever it is that you're scanning. So from there, we can go ahead and click on continue. And now it's going to go through that WAR file and validate the Java that it's able to find within there. So it's going to run through, find everything, and once this this loading bar gets to the end, then we'll have a chance to kind of go in and verify what was found. And this is actually a good example of optimizations that we've put into place. A couple of years ago, when I would scan this same project, I would have to show like one or two other features while it was loading up the WAR file and finding everything. That process is actually a lot faster now, and I don't even have time to demo anything as it loads. So yep, here you can see we have we've analyzed the WAR file and we've determined what it contains. And here you're going to see a list of our scanning engines. And so when you see this scanning engine, one of the things that kind of trips people up is they might see, they might open this open source part and see stuff that's not open source. You know, they also might see things duplicated in here that are showing up in other areas. The way that you want to think about these different language items here is that, you know, this is a scanning engine and it's identifying any of the files that might be of interest to that scanning engine. So, for example, let's say that your project contains some HTML files. You might see an entry for PHP here that has those HTML files, even if there's not any PHP in them. And it just means that the scan engine thinks that there's potential that it needs to be scanned for that language. So it's going to include that. And that's why you might see, you know, components showing up under different languages or under a language that doesn't necessarily make sense, you know, on its surface for what you know is in there. So, you know, it's okay if you see things duplicated here. And open source pretty much just grabs everything. So this is usually a long list there and not something that you need to worry about. The main thing that you need to worry about is when you see this, this needs review item. So when you have components that need review, and let's see if we can find the one. Oh, I guess it's, yeah, let's see what we have here. Oh, 0 issues. You know, I'm not sure why we're getting that flag on this one. But typically what needs review means is it means that there's a reference to something that AppScan wasn't able to resolve that reference. And so it's, you know, probably like a dependency that AppScan wasn't able to find. And usually when you go in and click needs review, it'll be under one of these specific components. And then when you click needs review, then you get the opportunity to point to that file manually. So you can resolve those dependencies and make sure that AppScan gets a little bit better coverage. You can also choose to ignore them if you want to, depending on what it is, that might make sense. You can also choose to, you know, check and uncheck these different components that you're scanning as well. And so that's going to let you know, what is actually going to be done as part of this scan. So yeah, you can go through, verify the coverage of what you're scanning using knowledge of your own application. And then once you're ready, then you can hit continue and it'll perform the actual scan. So actually, before the scan starts, you'll get this dialog that a config file has been created. And I mentioned that the config file that we create here can be used through some of our other integrations. So for example, if you were trying to automate using our Jenkins integration, the process for that would be, first you would set up a scan in AppScan Go, like just do a manual scan, make sure that it runs as expected and gets you the type of results that you want. And then now that you know that the configuration works well, this config file, you can bring that over to the Jenkins integration and make sure that that's used for the scans as they're done in an automated way. So, it's basically like your first scan, make sure that it runs correctly, and then the configuration is reused wherever you want to automate. And the config file is created in the folder, that same root folder of your source code that you selected. And it's an AppScan config.xml file. So you can actually open this up. I think, is this going to be readable? Let's see. No, that's ugly. So maybe right click on it and yeah, let's edit with Notepad++. You should be able to do that. Yep, and so here you can see the contents of this XML file. And it's basically, these are all of those boxes that were unchecked, the different components that we just looked at. You saw that some of the boxes were checked, some were unchecked. So these are the pieces that are going to be excluded from the scan. There's a few more flags that you can set as well. These are documented in our, our online documentation. But it's mostly going to be like those includes and excludes. So let's go ahead and close out Notepad here. And from here, yeah, so that's the explanation of the config file. We don't really need to mess with that anymore, so we can go ahead and click on create a scan. And now it's going to reach out to AppScan on Cloud, and it's going to ask for that key ID and secret that we mentioned. So for this, let's go ahead and head back to the AppScan on Cloud interface. And in the left navigation, click on API under Tools, and then you can generate your secret and key. Let me just unshare my screen for a minute while I generate this. And you can also click Generate on your side, and it'll give you that key ID and secret. And while I've got my screen hidden, I'll go ahead and enter them into into AppScan Go as well. So feel free to perform that step on your side too. So I've entered my key ID and secret. I'm hitting login, and assuming that works, I'll go ahead and share my screen again. Okay. So yeah, you should have AppScan Go, should be logged into AppScan on Cloud now. And the main reason, well, there's two reasons that it needs to be able to connect. One is to pull the list of applications, which you see right here. And you're going to want to select the application that you added earlier. And basically what this is saying is it's just making sure that the results from our scan go to the right place in AppScan on Cloud. So you'll select the appropriate application. You can also change the scan name if you want to. This default of source folder and timestamp is usually pretty good anyways, so I usually just use the defaults. But if you had a specific naming convention that you used in your organization, you could change it to use that. And then you can set your scan speed options as well. So probably for the purpose of this lab, we could set it to simple to get our fastest scan. And yeah, from there are other options. You can receive an update by email if you want to. I'm gonna uncheck that. You can also run as a personal scan. Go ahead and leave that unchecked. And I'll explain what that is once we get some results from this scan. And from here, I think we look good, and we can go ahead and click on Initiate Scan. And I'm also seeing, it looks like we might have had some technical issues with the chat. So apologies if you've been asking questions and they haven't been being answered. I think we're trying to
Yep.
sort out this issue right
Hey,
now.
Carl. Yeah, I can see the questions now.
Oh, okay. Okay, great.
All right, thanks.
Okay, so the process that just happened with those loading bars, basically what just happened there is that the source code, or the WAR file in this case, was processed into that IRX format and then uploaded to AppScan on Cloud. So once we get 100% at this point, then the scan has been fully uploaded and we're done with the AppScan Go component. So you can go ahead and hit finish here, and you can actually close that component out if you want to. So let's move back over to AppScan on Cloud. And from here, if you go to your application, then you should be able to see the scan in progress. So, yep, under recent scans, you can see that we have a scan initializing. And you can also click in the top left corner here. There's an option for scans, and we can go over to the scans view for this application. And here, it's basically a little bit more real time, the view that we're looking at. So you can actually open up this scan. If we had other previous scans, you would see them showing up in a list here as well. But you can see that the status, so we've received the IRX file, the scan is initializing right now. And then, once it gets fully set up, then the scan will actually start running. So yeah, this is kind of like a high level view of the scan, you can actually click on the scan name itself. And here you get a more detailed scan dashboard of this specific scan. And some of this is going to be real-time information. So the scan timeline, I believe, gets updated in real time. The scan status gets updated in real time. The issues, I believe that the issues aren't going to update until the scan's complete, unless that's changed in a recent update. And then I know we've had some UI changes here